Hello and welcome to the A to Z of Football podcast. We're back again, you are back again to watch us talk and waffle about football. It's everyone's favourite time of the week. I am Alex VA and I'm with Zach D.
Zed.
We've got that nailed down.
We're getting good at this now, aren't we?
We're good. We're getting it.
Yeah.
Podcast stuff's easy. I don't know why I didn't do it earlier. But anyway, we're doing it now, which is the most important thing. As per usual, we have three important, groundbreaking topics that we're going to dissect. I was about to say insect, then
Dissect.
I'm not exactly sure what I'm saying, but you guys know what I mean. We're gonna talk about some interesting topics, see what we both think of them, and yeah, have a good time as always. So Zachary, what are the three topics today?
So this week is quite a discussion-based one, Alex. We're going to talk about a few things which will definitely be open for debate. So we're going to have a little discussion about VAR and what we both think of that and how it's been received in this past season and obviously where it's gone wrong and where it can still improve. We're also going to talk about where can the Premier League go now. Obviously, last week, if you watched, we talked a lot about the Dutch League and the French League and how they've been cancelled and that pissed on the title and all that. We're going to talk about some different options the Premier League may decide to take. I think they are definitely looking at getting the season up and running in any way they can. So we're going to go with a few options like extra teams next season, a playoff system, sort of like a World Cup. Or just make void or give Liverpool's rep. We're going to discuss all those things, and also we're going to have a little discussion about the Championship playoff places. Now, obviously, the top two, most people would say Leeds and West Brom probably more likely to get through on with that than anyone else.
So we talk about a lot, but this time I'm confident they're going to do it.
So, and we're going to talk about all the teams in there. So, obviously, Championship, very competitive playoff places. We'll go all the way from Fulham, probably down to like Swansea, Blackburn. They're all in around there. So, we'll have a discussion about each team, see what we can come with. But there you go. There are your topics for this week. Let's start off, Alex, with a good old chat about the very controversial VAR.
VAR, Mr. VAR, as one matter once put it. Okay, so let's cast our minds back to last season, or the seasons prior to this one. I would say probably 80%, at least like three quarters, at least 75%, 80% of fans and players wanted VAR to come in because the standard of refereeing was rubbish. Like, well, or so they thought anyway. Like, for example, Neil Warnock last season, I'm not sure you remember when Chelsea got that equaliser, they went on to win. That pretty much got them relegated. He was fuming. Everyone was fuming. He was on the pitch. He was like, Charlie Austin had a rant about it.
Very famous Charlie Austin rant. Yeah, we're all aware of this now.
Oh, that was hilarious. It was hilarious. But so I think the point is that pretty much everyone wanted it to happen, and I was as well, because it was getting to the point where so many decisions, well, pretty much like a big decision a game was happening and it was incorrect or narrow, and everyone was like, right, VAR, that'll sort it out. That it was almost becoming a no-brainer. However, now we're in a weird stage, I think, where it's still up in the air. And I think the thing was with it is that it wasn't fine. I don't think it was properly finalised what it was there and what it was being used for before the start of the season. It was, so they're using it like for handballs. I don't really think they really finalised how much leeway they're giving for penalties and for either side. Like on one end of the field, like you can get away with so much with handballs. Like if you're defending the penalty area, it feels like you can get away with murder. But even if you're attacking and it hits there, or like, and you have no idea about it, then it's going to get ruled out. They didn't really think about that. they didn't really think about how offsides are going to work. I mean, like some of the offside decisions this season have been woeful. Like, sorry, not woeful in the fact that they've got them wrong by the rules, but in the fact that if someone is a millimetre offside, their shoulder's a millimetre offside,
Mm.
And in a stage of play, 5, 6 passes before the goal, and they're disallowing it. You're like, what's the thought process behind that? Like, it's it's a very tricky one to discuss because
So the thing is, I think the main question that has to be asked of this is VAR was supposed to come in, was supposed to, make wrong decisions right, and it would never get anything wrong, sort of how it does in rugby, how it does in cricket, so on.
Yeah.
But I think, like everything that's ever happened, that's ever changed in football, they've always taken the really hard route with it, and they've always made it more complicated and more convoluted than it needs to be. So if we look at the offsides, for example, technically they haven't got an offside decision wrong this season.
That's it. But that's by the rules. You're right. It's how it's the interpretation of the rules.
This is the problem I've got. They've gone too far with it. They've tried to be too clever with it. Like with football goal line technology, it's over the line or it isn't over the line. That's quite easy.
It's black or white. It's black or white. It either is or it isn't.
With the offside, with VAR, the rules that they have for offside, they're saying if any part of the body is offside by even a millimeter, then that is not a goal. But I don't see how it would be fair to the player who can't distinguish in his head how far a millimeter is or not. If his nose is a millimeter offside, does he really have an advantage against the defender there? I would argue no. So I think if offside, I think VAR is good in the sense it catches offsides that assistant side line refs miss. But I think what you need to do is you need to have a sort of rugby attitude with it. So when I was playing rugby, especially, it was all about the back foot. And if your back foot was offside, then you're offside. Obviously, with football, I think it should be measured off the feet because it's obviously you use your feet to run forward.
Yeah.
So I think if your arm, be sensible about it. Basically, is what I'm getting to. If their whole legs offside, then yeah, they're offside. If their toes offside, can you really say that? I think there's lots of parts of VAR which have worked really well. I think if we look at games like the Man City Tottenham game, I think Manchester City would feel really hard done by, and there's no doubt that they probably deserved to have won that game. But Aguero was offside. I don't think
it cleared out a wrong decision.
Yeah,
it did.
You can't deny that he's quite clearly offside in that example. But then the Llorente thing, does it hit his arm? Does it not hit his arm?
That's where it comes clouded, isn't it? I think one thing I will say for this season's Premier League is that for red cards, it's worked really well. I think they cleared a lot of decisions up in that regard. But I think the phrase that I said earlier, and that it was brought in to overrule clear and obvious decisions.
Yeah.
Now, how is your kneecap being a millimetre offside if five passes before a clear and obvious decision? It's not at all. That's what I think people are getting at, and I think the question that I have with it is that because I was a big advocate and I still am a big advocate for VAR. However, is it the Premier League is the biggest league in the world, right? Should it be brought into the Premier League when it's still at a stage where we're testing it and no one really knows what's going on?
So I think that's interesting because actually, for me, I think it's important that it's in there while it's being tested. And although mistakes are definitely made, I think if you want something to work perfectly, you have to put in a real life scenario. If they're just going, we've been doing it on scientific tests using like science and technology and stuff to figure it out. You're like, but then the players haven't got a chance to get the grasp of it. But I think you're right though also, because if you're having players have to use it while it's in training, then it means it's always changing, meaning players have to always adapt to it.
That's the thing, because the only reason I say that is because this season possibly they'll be going off one type of law or one type of rule or whatever, and the next season they'll listen to advice and I guess that's the caveat with my argument, is that they need to listen to advice to adapt it. But at the same time, is the Premier League the league to do that in? Like, could we do it in other leagues first? I think, personally, it was a case of jumping in too soon with I think it is at the end of the day a case about the rules that they're using and how they're going off, because if they are going off, the offside rule, then any part of your body that a goal scorer. So I don't think arms, but anything apart from arms, if you're a millimetre offside, that's it. Yeah. So it's the rules that they're using, and is that the way to go forward, and will they adapt it in the future? I'm not sure. I hope they do, because
I think it definitely needs adjusting for sure. I think another question that needs to be raised, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit as well, is especially in the World Cup when it first started getting used. I think that was a really odd system in my head, because the game would go on, and then the people would go in the ref say, we've just seen a potential penalty about 10 minutes ago. And then the ref would have to go over to the screen. So basically what they've tried to do is make sure the ref still has final decision. But I think the problem with that is one man's decision is always going to be subjective. So, is it ever going to, if it's going to be right or wrong, it would depend on the circumstance. That if you look at rugby or you look at cricket, what they do is the umpire doesn't have final decision per se. He goes, I don't know. Someone tells him what the right thing is. He goes, okay, then out. And I think that was the problem they're having with football, is they're trying to go, we think there's a penalty when there is a penalty. They're going, it's up to you to make that decision. You're going, wait, no, if there's a penalty, then just tell him there's a penalty incident and he can just give the penalty.
I think that's what it lacks. You're right. It does lack leadership in some senses, and that's what if you're a referee and you're not sure about the decision, you need a definite answer. You want you've got the wrong decision, overrule it. You've made the right decision, stick with it. But if you're saying go with go with your gut, which is what you're right, which is what's been happening a lot. They're saying, oh well, just go with your original decision. Then you're like, well, then it just creates more drama and uncertainty. I think one key point about it, which I think the Premier League really hasn't done well, is the use of the screens on the side of the pitch.
Yeah.
Because I think they've only used it once or twice to check red cards or overturn red cards or something like that. Yeah. Why not? What's the harm in the referee going over to look for himself, see different views of what he saw in real life, and make that, and then it'll be so much easier. Because
I see what you're saying, but I think that's where my problem is, because I think the screen thing and the ref going over to the screen, although good for him to get a second opinion, I think you should take an opinion of someone in his ear goes, look, there's been a red card. We think there's been a red card incident. He's definitely tackled him. Quite clearly it's a red card. He needs to be sent off. And then he goes, oh, okay, then off you go. Instead of going over to the screen for a second opinion, just so he has final say over what happens. I think, it's a tricky one, because we don't want the refs to lose integrity, but I think you have to find that right balance. I think other sports have found the right balance, because, nowadays an umpire or referee accepts if they got a decision wrong because they're proved wrong by TMO or, going upstairs. So I think that's where football is to change that way.
Yeah, it's about status because in rugby union, especially in rugby, you're right. Like the referees, like they get the utmost respect. Like they
Mm.
put people like they make a decision. They go to the screen or whatever. They have the utmost respect. In cricket, like umpires have the utmost respect. You can, I think, it's just the issue of football. Football's obviously evolved, and like certain fouls are fouls that weren't 10, 15 years ago, and certain it keeps on changing. And
Mm.
I think that's the only thing that, because ideally you'd like football to be exactly the same as rugby and cricket, where it's black, like decisions are black and white, and but I think because football's always changing with like as you know you could do a hard challenge 20 years ago, everyone's loving it, and now that's a red card or a foul. So it is just the authority of the referee, and
Mm.
whether that gets clouded with VAR, and because without it, he can make a decision on the pitch, he sticks with it, and then that's it.
Yeah.
But it's just then obviously like how good that referee is, how many mistakes he makes. So I'm
Mm.
not really sure where I stand with it. After all this talk, I still don't really know. I still think with some work, it'll be good for the game because
Mm.
imagine if a title's decided a offside, or imagine if someone goes down because they had a goal disallowed for
Mm.
handball when it wasn't handball, or
Mm.
stuff like this. But then if you're taking these margins and taking these rules into play, then perfectly legitimate goals in pretty much everyone's eyes, apart from the
Yeah.
system, then comes to
I
sorted.
think I think there's a few key things for me. I think, like you, I think VAR is a good thing for the sport in getting fixing things that were said which were wrong and making sure the right decisions are made. But I think they need to simplify it, because actually, if you make something simple, it works more efficiently. You need to get rid of the 3D offside idea of his armpit was
Yeah,
offside. That doesn't help the sport.
definitely.
That frustrates people. Go back to quite clearly. There's a line on the floor. 2D, is his body or his feet over that line? Yes, then he's offside. They need to keep that simplicity to it, because that allows the game to flow, and it causes less arguments, because then it's quite clearly his foot's over the line, his foot's not over the line. I think they have to simplify the rules down. What is a handball?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
is it Sissoko putting up his arm to direct someone, and Mane hitting it, flicking it? Is that handball? Yes, I argue maybe, but
I can feel
that's
the
just one
pain in your
example.
voice for that one. The
I'm not
pain.
saying whether that's a penalty or not. I don't. I probably
Yeah,
think
no,
it
I
is,
know what you mean.
to be fair, but things like that. Is that a handball? Probably. We'll make that clear in the rules then.
Yeah.
So I think VAR has a lot of catching up to do, but I think if for it to actually work, it needs to break itself down and actually start again,
Yeah.
and not try and be different in like the ref goes over to the screen, and if the ref's unsure, he should just go, look, I don't know what to do here, and someone can look back at it and go, you need to send them off. So I
You're
think
right. I
I
think
think it
it's a
needs to be
case of
simplified. I think the rules need more clarity, and I
yeah.
think older generation footballers, like all the pundits and so on back then, they need to let go of letting the game flow. I think
Yeah.
the spirit of football will always continue, but I think the main thing that annoys people is the complexity of it. So they need to bring it back, build it up again, so it's an efficient structure and system, so players and fans can enjoy it.
Oh, that was brilliant. I'm just to finish on that, I've got three. I was just thinking then. I think there's three key points for me with this, and then we can move on. One, this season, I agree with you. I think they've tried almost, use the old phrase "run before you can walk." Like they tried too much, and
Yeah.
it's everyone's being overwhelmed with it. Two, I think ultimately though they are following the rules. Like and I think the rules need to be changed, or you have to take a different view of the rules in order for you know things to change in a positive way. And 3, what was my third point? I forgot what my third point was. That it was a corker as well. It was an absolute corker.
Always the best ones.
Always the best ones that desert me. Anyway, we can come back to that. Anyway, so VAR. Let us know what you think in the comments. What are we moving on to next? Talk me through it.
You know what? We're gonna leave the final big discussion till the end because I think there's a lot of things that can happen there.
I think that's a good idea.
Let's have a little bit of a break from the controversy, from the debate. Let's talk about the championship this year, and let's specifically focus in on the championship playoffs. Who deserves to be in those third place and sixth place places to get to the Premier League? So we're going to look at Fulham, Brentford, Forest, Nottingham Forest, Preston, Bristol City, and obviously Millwall, Cardiff, Swansea, Blackburn. They're all around there anyway as well. So we'll go through. I'll just get the table up a second, and we can just quickly see what it's all looking like.
I've actually become ready prepared, Zachary. So how about we start off from sort of lowest contenders up?
Okay,
and then sort of talk through. So who have we got? We've got Swansea on 53, sitting in 11th. Now, the thing is, they're only 3 points off 6th, with not a bad goal difference, so just on a positive 1 goal difference. I think I really don't know, like, how to look at Swansea. Like, they obviously, I'd say they're a Premier League, or they were established Premier League club for, I would say, 5-6 years, something in that region.
I think they came up in 2012, didn't they? And
I think that's right. I think 12, and then they got relegated in 18. They've been stuck down there for a little bit now, bogged down there. They're 11th. The thing, they've got Brewster in from Liverpool, who's been very good for them since he's come in, and Steve Cooper seems to be doing a relatively good job. However, if they were 7th or 8th, I'd back them to be in there, or in and around there at the end of the season, purely because they're a big club. They've got big pedigree, so you'd want them back. I mean, I'd want them back in the Premier League. They're a good club. They're a nice club.
Mm-hmm.
But I think star quality probably lacking. There's 4 teams between them and 6th place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not backing them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that firstly, it's amazing that there's this many teams involved in the fight to get in the Premier League. I think that's the joy of the championship.
Yeah.
I think Swansea, they had a really good start to the season. They were in around the top 2 of Leeds for a while. But they've just slipped off, unfortunately. A goal difference of 1, that's not great. It could be a lot better. I think, they are a well-established team. They deserve to definitely be in the championship. They, would fit quite comfortably into the Premier League, I think. They'd struggle, but I think they'd be okay. They're always a team to keep an eye on. I think this season, I don't think this season's going to happen. I think, they didn't keep up the pace at the start of the season. I think, the fact that there's 4 other teams, not even before 6th, I think, they're just going to miss out. I think, I don't think they're going to go down the table. I don't think they're going to really move at all, to be honest. I think, it's a shame because I was backing them at the start of the season, Swansea. I thought, this is interesting. The championship's always interesting like that. Teams always suddenly just pop up out of nowhere. I think is interesting.
I think it would be a step too far. I think.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna let Swansea go. What about Blackburn then? Because Blackburn are in a pretty similar position, aren't they?
Similar position. Let me start with Blackburn. Look, I'm a Burn. Let's get that out in the open. Blackburn, I would not like to see come back up to the Prem. Out of all these teams, I don't care if any of them else do. Just not Blackburn. All right. I've just slammed. Well, not
But
slammed.
Blackburn, Premier League champions of
No,
93, aren't they?
because of that, they had a lot of Wonga. They they got a loan deal from Wonga, and now they were cash rich for a season. It's nothing to shout about. Burnley could do it. It's look. Well, sorry, no. Obviously, like rivalry aside, obviously what they did back then was fantastic. It was a great achievement. But look, we had, I think it was 36 years of hurt where we didn't beat them. For 36 years, your arch rivals, we could not beat them.
You didn't beat
Finally,
Blackburn for 36 years. Is that true? I
yeah,
didn't know that.
shut up. So don't go on about it, all right? So it's a very emotional time. It was a very emotional time, obviously. I mean, I only lived through 13 years of the 36, so, it wasn't awful for me. But anyway, that's beside the point. We had a load of years where we couldn't beat them. We beat them when we finally went up, came back down again, beat them again twice. Yeah, both times. And I'm loving us being the superior team in Lancashire.
I was going to say you must like that you're like a quite stable Premier League side now.
Yeah, we're a stable Premier League side. They're a mid-table Championship side. Yeah,
how long have Blackburn been in the Championship?
I'd say since they went. So I think 9, 10, we were 11, 12. I think they went down in 2012 roughly. So I'd say 7, 8, 9 seasons, that sort of thing. And obviously they went down to League One for a season as well, which I loved. Oh, that was hilarious. They went down to League One. Oh, anyway, look, let's put that aside. Let's put my completely mutual feelings of Blackburn aside for a second. I think if we're using the argument for Swansea, then we use the same argument for Blackburn. Like,
yeah,
still only technically 3 points away, but there's another still 3 teams ahead of them. They've lost Bradley back to injury, which is a huge, that's a huge. He was the best player by country mile, and it's could they do it? Possibly. I think they've got a decent goal difference, which obviously could benefit them. But
I'm looking now. They've got better goal difference than everyone up to Nottingham Forest, so they're doing that. That may help them, to be fair.
However, their form going into the to the lockdown was pretty poor. They drew 0-0 to Stoke at home. They drew to Swansea at home. They lost 3-0 to Derby away. Drew to Brentford, which is quite a good result, to be fair. But I would like to think. Sorry, would not like to think. I think they might not have the star quality. Well, I mean, obviously, star quality is a luxury to have in the Championship. But I really think that if you're looking personally, we're looking from Cardiff upwards in this debate.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I don't think I have much more to add on Blackburn. I think, obviously, I see them as a Premier League side, obviously, because of their history and what they've done in that table.
Yeah.
I think
maybe.
I think they've become too much of a cemented Championship side for me to get really that invested and excited about them. I think Cardiff, on the other hand, though, they're really interesting because I was actually quite upset when they got relegated last season. I mean, I saw it coming the whole season, but it was almost heartbreaking because they were really trying. They really wanted to be there.
You put the effort in. A for effort. A for effort.
A for effort.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
They just fell short, and I think my only thing with Cardiff is they're like Norwich and they're like Fulham nowadays. Really, to be honest, they kind of they're just yo-yo about the two tables, and and it's kind of like if Cardiff came up, they'd probably get relegated again, and it's really boring, and it's really it's like these mini bits of euphoria of like we're in the Premier League, oh we're relegated again, we're in the Premier League, oh we're relegated, and it's a bit repetitive, and that's why I'm quite excited about the other teams that are in this because they're teams that I want to see come back to the Premier League or go to the Premier League for the first time because it just spices things up a bit. I think, I think Cardiff are a good enough side, only 9 losses this season. That's not that bad.
They've done a good job since Warnock got sacked. Harris has done a very good job. Because they started the season pretty horrifically, to be fair, in terms of their usual standards, and they've done very well they've done very well recently. A little bit of a
I'm calling them out though. It's not they Cardiff aren't good enough, and it's not they haven't had a good season because they've done well. I just don't want to see it again. I want to see something new. I want to see something different.
It's fair enough, and I don't. Again, it's tricky, but I don't think you're right. I'm not really too fussed if they come back up, and I think that is a good point. And you know, again, just not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. There's some good footballing insight. I'm just not feeling Cardiff to go up. Just not feeling it. You know,
Millwall are interesting because last season they were fighting for their place in the Championship, and that just shows you what the Championship's like. You can go from fighting for relegation one season to fighting for Premier League glory the next. So Millwall, they've had quite a good season, same figures as Cardiff.
Very good season.
Very good season considering last season. So, but they just don't feel that much excitement again.
Oh, no, I would love to see Millwall in the Prem, but that would be hilarious. Look, I'm not saying they'd come up and they play good football. I'm not saying they'd survive by any stretch of the imagination and surprise us all, but it would just be hilarious to have them in the league. Like, you know, old-fashioned Mill, like again, like good atmosphere, like because they bring fantastic atmospheres. Some of their fans take it a bit too far, but you know, like you can't. You can't like get a tiny group of idiots and like categorize the whole fan base. Like their fan base is class, and it would just be hilarious. Like these class away days. Like, I mean, I think they'd go straight back down. But for one
for sure.
season,
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I'd quite like to see them back in, but then it's the head and the heart argument, guys. Look, I think with my heart, I'd like to see them back in, but with my head, they do very well at home. They're sort of like Burnley a few seasons ago. They do very well at home, but struggle away. Just looking at their recent results. Well, actually, they did just beat Nottingham Forest 3-0, but before that, lost a Wigan away, which is a Lincoln poor result. You know, they've got Smith, who's decent. Let's have a look here at their past results. Yeah, and lose. Oh no, they beat Preston. And then I'm actually talking a bit of waffle. To be fair, I thought they were doing a lot lot better at home and worse away. But it obviously look, we're both for Premier League clubs, so we're not really like thoroughly involved with Championship football. From what I've seen of them so far this season, it's a lot of huff and puff. You'll grind out wins here and there, and you know, put in a always good effort, 100%. Is that if the season does continue and they complete the season, is that going to transfer into that sort of midweek of games with no fans, with no atmosphere to back them up? I highly doubt it.
It's difficult because I'm looking at this table and I'm thinking, you know, I think it's only really a fight, a really big fight for the final place. I think Forest may fall off. I think Brentford may fall off as well. I think Fulham probably quite secure in there. But I think in terms of Millwall, they're you know, it's nice to see those sort of clubs come up to the Premier League. But unfortunately, when that does happen, a lot of us go with the idea of, oh, they'll just get relegated again. So
yeah.
I think the team that really excites me, and we can both say this, is Bristol Boys.
Now look,
Bristol City. If they were in the Premier League, that sounds like good fun to me.
No, right. So this is where I take issue. Is that I am traditionally, so I mean, obviously I'm a Burnley fan through and through, but you know, second team, you look, my local team is Bristol Rovers. Now this is where it becomes cloudy, because on the one hand, obviously Bristol City in the Prem would be great. I mean, obviously I'd rather wait I'd have an away day and you'd have to travel 10 minutes in the car to
Mm.
get to it. It'll be brilliant. Like, and obviously, like Premier League, like it'll be fun to go and watch Premier League clubs at Ashton Gate. But having said that, there is also a point behind my perhaps bias. Bristol City have been in this situation for the last 2 or 3 seasons. They've been, I mean, in and around the playoffs until the last 10 or so games. I went to watch Bristol City versus Wolves 2 seasons ago now when Wolves got promoted from the Championship. At the time, Wolves were first, Bristol City were second, and were 1-0 up in that game. Lost it 2-1. 1-0 up, and Wolves had 10 men. They ended up losing it 2-1. And then they fell off. It was similar last season as well. They were in a round, just fell off towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
There's clearly some sort of attitude problem there. They can't keep sustaining it to the end of the season. Maybe this lockdown thing could help, and they come back and keep playing good football, because they do play good football. I've seen them play a few times. They do play good football.
Mm.
But is it a mentality thing that they still can't overcome, because they've been in this situation before?
Mm-hmm.
Will they do it again? I'm not sure. But
I think
they do have good players.
I think you're right. I agree with you. Especially last season, I was like, I'd be mental if Bristol City managed to go and finish like 10th, I think, or something.
Yeah.
I think there is definitely something blocking them mentally. I think they're a strong team. I think if you play Bristol City in any capacity, I think you're going to have a good game on your hands. I don't think they're
a good team.
I think I think you're right. I think Bristol City, for them to take that next level, and even if you get a playoff place, there's still no guarantee you're going to the Premier League. You've got to play semi-finals, 2 legs.
Well, yeah, you've got 2 legs and then the Wembley final.
So anything can happen in them, and I think in that sense, I think if I'm looking at the other playoff teams, I'm thinking Bristol City, they could sneak into 6th, but will they survive those games? It's a 50-50 with me and Bristol City. I think it would be great to see them get to the Premier League. I always like little smaller teams coming into the Premier League and reaching that goal. But I think a more shot would be if Preston managed to put it off.
Now, see, this is another team that I really would like to see back in the Prem. So I've got Mill, I'd like to see, and I'd love to see Preston. Look, so to give you a little bit of background of why is that Preston, they're a team in the north. It's a town. Town, right? Like the whole town revolves around the football club, and it means so much to the community of the football club's doing well. It's like Burnley. Look, Burnley is a completely different place when we're doing well in the Prem to when we're mid-table to near the bottom of the Championship. Like the whole community revolves around the football club, and it's the same with Preston. So how fantastic would it be if a team like Preston could get into the Prem? And I honestly think they could as well. I think signing Sinclair from Celtic was a stroke of genius. Like, let's just have a look as well. Like, I think that they can keep this run going, and the only problem is their recent form coming into it. They seem to be tailing off a bit, losing to West Brom, Fulham, QPR at home.
I think that's the problem with Preston as well. They're sort of that Bristol City idea we just chatted about.
I agree.
Drops off. Preston seem in and around most seasons, but it just seems to falter, and they end up finishing 7th, 8th, 9th. And I think for that reason, I don't know. I find it difficult to picture Preston in any sort of Premier League capacity. I think
I do as well. Although
how long they've been in the Championship of
donkey's years. I couldn't tell you the exact. I know they dropped down to the League One for a little bit as well. And let's just have a look.
I don't even know if they've been in the Premier League, to be fair.
I don't think they have.
Um,
60-61 is when they were last in the top flight. So long. So I mean, that's another reason why I thought at a sort of not emotional standpoint, but a personal standpoint, maybe.
mm,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm saying that quite correct, but from that sort of standpoint, it'll be nice to see a club that haven't experienced it.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think as well, also, what's worth noting that if they do get into the playoffs, they've got Alex Neil, and he's done it before with Norwich, and I think that could be a big part to play. Like, if you've got a manager that's been through the playoffs before, having that sort of experience and knowing that, that they've won it, like they've gone through and they've won it, that's mentally, I think that could be quite a big thing.
That's interesting because I forgot about that, but I think with that mentality could keep them pushing forward and take them, maybe not all the way, but definitely secure that playoff position. I think Nottingham Forest and Brentford are an interesting one because I've been really impressed by both of them this season. I wasn't expecting much from Forest. They come in with sort of a mixed sort of squad, new manager who no one really knew anything about. Yeah, but he's done really good job there.
He's done brilliantly.
Losses, they seem like quite a competent team this season, Forest, and they've been gone for the Premier League for a very long time now. When I think it's like 13 years of her. I think
they're a huge club. They're a huge club.
They're a huge club, and I think for them to be in the playoffs is good. I think this year is the year they'll get the playoff position that they've been after for so many seasons now.
So do I. I think that they're a huge club. They've got a great goalie. I can't remember his name. Let's just have a look. Samba, that's the one. Samba. He's a class goalie. They've got Lanucci. The talent is there. The history is there. Obviously the drive is there. They're definitely getting in the playoffs, in my opinion. And I mean, I guess we'll talk about who we think is going to win it, but they're definitely one of my favourites. I can tell you that for now. Brentford, it's such a tricky one with Brentford because again they're a sort of team that you like. Like I don't think anyone can really have anything against Brentford.
I've really enjoyed.
They've been class this season. They really have. They've got a new stadium coming, so if they did get promoted to the Prem, then they'll have that, and they'll be set for Premier League football, which I think is a big thing. Ollie Watkins is a class act. Ben Rama, I believe, is on the left, being class as well. So this is the sort of the difference I think between like the Swanseas and Blackburns is that they've got just that class above, that little bit of extra class that those teams perhaps might not have. So they're up there history wise, and like sort of obviously I don't believe they've ever been in the Prem. Guessing they would be great, but having possibly not the backing of a Nottingham Forest, is up in the air, really, isn't it?
Mentality does help, and I think that's why Fulham will stay third. And I think now they'll push on. They'll do well in the playoffs. I think Brentford will struggle with that because they aren't historically a massive club like Forest. And I think in that sense, I think that may hinder them and may make them falter. I think if we talk a little about who we think is going to be in those playoff positions,
right. So go on.
For me, I've got to go Fulham. They've been pretty strong this season. They haven't really had much to complain about. They deserve to be third place. They're going in there. I think Brentford, again, they've been a standout team for me. They deserve that shot. Nottingham Forest also deserve that shot. But for me, I think for that sixth place, there's so many what I call championship sides in and around there. I think for a team that has the competence and has done it before anything, I think if Cardiff came back stronger, they may slip in there at sixth.
Interesting. I think that is actually going to stay the same as in the top four. Sorry, the third to sixth are going to stay the same. I think Preston will stay in there, and I hope they do. They'll stay sixth. Brentford will drop down to fifth. Forest will move up to 4th and Fulham 3rd. And if you want to put a bet on now, guys, get your Sky Bet account up, pop £100 on this because it's coming in. Preston play Fulham. Unfortunately, I think Fulham will knock them out. They've got too much class. Mitrovic, Carvalho, class players. Nottingham Forest knock out Brentford. And then Wembley final goes to pens. Samba, Nottingham Forest's goalkeeper, slots one in the top corner. Scenes. Nottingham Forest come back up to the Premier League. I'm telling you've heard it here first.
I think Nottingham Forest fans would be thrilled by that.
Sure, yeah. Any listening, let us know what you think. Any Championship fans, let us know what you think. That's my prediction.
I think it's interesting. I think if I put Cardiff in there, I think Fulham Cardiff. I think Fulham probably win that one. Brentford Nottingham Forest. This is the tricky one for me because I think on any day either one could beat each other.
Yeah.
I think
so both similar attacking sides as well. They both play good football, nice attacking football.
I think Nottingham Forest. I think Brentford have a better attacking force, in my opinion, from what I've seen. They put they've beaten Leeds this season. They've beaten teams quite comfortably in some cases, and I think for me, I'm looking at a Fulham Brentford final, and I think. I don't want to be boring and say Fulham will get promoted again because I don't really want that because it's boring for the sport.
Yeah.
It's happened. That means it would have happened twice within 3 years. I think I'm going to say Brentford turn up on the day and Brentford get promoted to the Premier League.
I love that. I mean, look, anyone really apart from Blackburn, I'm sweet to be fair. So like that's what we can take from it. But on a serious note, I think I'd like to see Forest back in. They're a huge club. They deserve to be back in there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's what we are. But anyway, as I say, let us know your thoughts. Anyone listening, just who do you think is going to happen? Maybe West Brom might slip back in there, or maybe Leeds. But it could happen. But anyway, I think
you've heard our opinions, so you've
heard our opinions.
The Championships is a table which any team could come out of nowhere. You never know. Sheffield Wednesday may be there before we know it.
Horrible.
Anyway,
right. Finally,
we've talked a lot today, Alex. We've had really good.
We have.
But let's finish off with something that's on everyone's mind at the moment. I think is an interesting topic to talk about. So a little bit of time talking about the Premier League. Obviously, still in lockdown, football's still cancelled, which is what this podcast is for, by the way. Just putting that out there. We want football back there at some point. So the Premier League, what decisions do they take to bring football back? Now, we have a few options. I think if we sort of quickly run through them. There's been some talk about there being potential of 22-side football, 22 teams for next season. Yeah. So sort of the season sort of ends as it is now. No one wins, no one gets relegated, but Leeds and West Brom come up.
Which means our whole previous chat is just void, by the way, if that happens.
In that case, which seems unlikely from what they're talking about, but in that case, what do you think of that?
I think the thing is that you can't deny that Leeds and West Brom don't deserve to come up. But if you start distorting the classic system of 20 teams and then 24 teams below that, etc., it's going to have a whole knock-on effect for a long time, I think. And if you start to stray away from that, then I'm not sure. It wouldn't sit easy with me. Just on the fact that it's worked so well for so long, and there has to be better systems out there than to completely muddle up and change how many teams are in the league, and what that would do for the transfer market, for the TV money, etc. Like for teams like winter breaks and stuff. I just don't think it's a feasible option that would really work well. And I can
I
see why
agree.
people are suggesting it, but then you can't. I just think there has to be some sort of like. I think if you're going to not have, which I don't think should happen, but if you're going to not relegate any teams or anything, it just you have to just scrap it and
Mm.
act like it never happened, which I don't think should happen. But if you are going to take that route, then you can't just add two teams in and then not add in a playoff winner,
I
that
think
sort of thing.
I think in this scenario, which seems unlikely to happen, but of course this is all hypotheticals. We're just throwing ideas out there. I think if this scenario was to happen, I think it loses the integrity and respect of what the Premier League is. So, and I think
Exactly.
none of us are going to come out of here with the same normal. When that's been talked about a lot, and that's not to do with just football. That's to do with everything. I think, but I think you can't. But for something like football and something like the Premier League, which is so sacred and so like well renowned in our hearts and our heads, to mix that up and which would cause long term delay and long term struggle in the sort of format of how we watch the sport. I think for me is that is an invalid thing to try and do. There's been a lot of talk also on doing it on neutral grounds. What do you think of that? So sort of a lockdown system. No one's really traveling around. All the remaining games are played within a certain timetable, and it's all done on neutral grounds. There's been reports that people like Brighton are a bit skeptical about that. What do you think of that?
Well, look, I think if you're going to finish the Premier League, then this really is the only way it's going to happen. Because then if you're going to have like you want to minimize travel first of all. Obviously, you want to make it as safe as possible. If you have set grounds and set training grounds, etc., then that's going to be it's going to be monitored carefully and it's going to be safe, etc. It's tricky. Look, Brighton want to complain about anything. They just want to whinge. But I think they're only whinging because teams threatened by relegation. Which I think the people raise a valid point in that playing games at home and playing away is obviously a big disadvantage, and that would sort of, if you've got easier games coming up at home or even harder games coming up away, then that just immediately gets wiped out if you have a neutral ground. But in terms of safety, and if you want to finish the league, then I don't really think you can look at another options in matching the two together. And it's because you've got to think first and foremost of the safety of all the footballers and the safety of all the medical team, the staff. If they have it in neutral grounds, and I understand it, and I think that's really the only realistic way that we can play all the matches, we can finish all the matches without the risk.
I'm pretty sure. You're right on that, and I agree. I think if you look at other sports, UFC, they're taking things to a secluded island area. They want to try and do something along those lines. Football needs to sort of take that approach. If you're desperate to get the Premier League finished, which I'm sure everyone wants to see, we all want to see Liverpool win it. We want to see who's going to end up getting the Champions League spot, who's going to get relegated. I think you have to. I think teams need to compromise, and they need to understand that fans aren't there. If Brighton aren't playing in their stadium, is it really going to make any difference because there's no one's there? You're not going to get the fan backing, so to speak, of the crowd in those games. So if you're playing it at Wembley, or if you're not playing at Wembley, it doesn't really make much difference to the football you'll be playing. I think teams like Brighton are in an interesting position because for them, on a personal level, if the best thing would be if the season got made void because they're out the relegation spot, they don't have to fight to make sure they don't get relegated. They haven't really got anything else to play for, But I think in that sense, this this is a matter of not being selfish and not being personal when it comes to
Exactly. I
football.
think you're
You
right.
know?
Like, articles have come out and saying that, look, we'll have to do this neutral stadium idea if the threat of relegation is removed. Well, of course you'd say that. Like, that's not the point. We're not negotiating for these teams. We're negotiating for the whole Premier League. And if you start to listen to all these views, then of course everyone's going to say, oh yeah, well, of course we'll play no venues. But then as long as there's no relegation at the end of it, you can't. That's not an adjustment that.
But
you
that's
can
not what
make.
the Premier League is. You know, if you want to finish the
Exactly.
season, you still need to have
Exactly.
Premier League trophies up for grabs. Champions League spaces up, European League spaces up for grabs, relegation places to avoid.
You have to have the same title winning spots, obviously, but you have to have the same of everything. You're going to finish the season. There's no way around what position you finish in and what that would usually equate to.
I don't think in my head if you can't play at home, it won't make any difference to the football playing. There's definitely going to be no fans there. There's not going to be anyone there. It's just a bit of grass for you to play on, basically.
These guys are getting paid upwards of probably I think on average about 100K a week. I think that's roughly the average. Obviously, for some clubs it's lower, and for some clubs it's a lot higher, which might skew the average a little bit. But just suck it up. I'm sorry. Like if the Premier League continues, you play at a neutral ground, you play 8, 9 more matches. You just have to deal with it and accept the consequences. It's a weird and difficult time for everyone, and having football back would mean so much to so many people. But you've just got to accept that it's not going to come without consequences. Some people will have to get relegated. Some people will miss out on Champions League, and you can't get around that, in my opinion.
If we look at other leagues, the sort of final point, and we'll sort of talk about what we kind of want to see personally. If we look at the French league, obviously PSG got given that title. They're quite clearly going to win it anyway. The same can be said for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Should the Premier League just do that then? Finish the season. Not PSG. Liverpool win it, and then that's it.
I think if you are going to finish, if we are going to cancel it, and we are going to say, look, that's it, guys. I think you do have to follow after what the French league have done, as tough and as obviously you can see from different points of views why that would hurt people, and that it would just have to be something that has to be done. You can't null and void a season. It just wouldn't be in line with anything that any football fan believes in. This whole season thus far, you're saying, oh, those games are scrapped. That doesn't mean anything. Well, of course it does. Like, having those games, you just have to take that as the season if they did cut it off. And as harsh as that may seem to people wanting to get into the Champions League, people in the relegation zone, it just is something that you would have to live with. And
I think it's
you can't do what the Dutch league did.
It's too hard to do that, because you can't cancel the season and go, look, Liverpool, we're still giving you the title. You can have the title. What happens to the teams in relegation battles that can get out of the relegation battle? What happens to Leeds? What happens to West Brom? What happens to the people who win that playoff? Do they wait till next season and Liverpool just wait? What happens to Spurs, Arsenal, Wolves, Sheffield United? They can't fight Chelsea for that 4th place spot now. You can't give Liverpool title and make exceptions for everything else. It gets rid of the integrity of what this sport is. It gets rid of the integrity of what this competition is. And I think for me personally, as my final point, if you want this to work, you need to finish the season we're on, play all the remaining games. It needs to be in a set location with set inclusions. Give them all their own camps on site, team camps on site. They all go out, they all play their games, they all train together, all in lockdown together. No fans. It's televised, so people can watch the games, obviously. And we just play out the season. And it's not ideal. It's not what people wanted, but it guarantees three things. It guarantees that Liverpool get to lift the Premier League trophy, which they've worked so hard for.
Yeah.
It guarantees the right teams to get the Champions League spots. So you play the games and you get the points and you find out who actually would have won them. And it finds out who deserves to be relegated for this season. Because if you play poorly enough this season to deserve to be relegated, then that will show in the remaining games. It doesn't matter if you're at the Ibrox Stadium or not, It doesn't matter. If you can't win your games, then you wouldn't have won them anyway. So
I think
you have to have a winner. We have to have our European spots, and we have to have relegation, because then it allows the flow of next season when it starts up again just to go as if nothing ever happened.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's about adapting, and if teams are willing to adapt, then they have to pay the price. If they want to adapt and they're willing to try and adapt, then they've got a chance of getting where they want in the league. There's no ideal situation in any of this, of course, but the one that's fairest is playing games at neutral ground. And the thing is as well, the Premier League have the money to do this. They have the money to test everyone. They have the money to make sure everything is perfectly safe, and then you can broadcast and do all of this. It's the best league in the world to facilitate that in the best country as well, with all these stadiums in the Midlands, etc. So I think there's no ideal for anyone here, but that's the fairest way of settling it. And people in the clubs just have to realise that they can't have what they want. They can't sort of have what they want, play the remaining games, and still not get relegated. If Liverpool are crown champions, then everything else has to follow. You can't have one thing and then exclude the other. So I think we're both on the same page. I'm tired. I'm tired after all that chat. That was
I'm exhausted.
That was very good.
I'm talked out.
That's my one exercise for the day. That's my one
enjoys hearing us natter like a couple of old women.
Yeah. It's what my dream will be when I'm 87, 88. Hope I live that long. But just nattering away about football all day. It'll be perfect, wouldn't it? And then we can look back and tell our grandchildren about that time when coronavirus stopped the season. We can show them this podcast. Oh my god, how amazing!
We'll be on over 1,000, I imagine, won't we?
Oh, at least. I'd say even 1,200, something like that. Just holding my hand. Great. Well, I think that concludes, doesn't it? That was a long old chat, but yeah, look at that. Over an hour. Anyway, thank you to everyone that has listened. I'm sure there are still a few that have managed to get this far. Obviously, always either listen, subscribe, like, comment, let us know your thoughts about everything. And me and Zachary, the A and the Z, will see you very soon. See you later, guys. Much love.